All right, welcome back. It's Back to the Basics, and today we are talking about Address Resolution Protocol. That's ARP for short. We're gonna go look at an IP address and find that MAC. Let's go. All right, we're back and we are talking ARP. That's Address Resolution Protocol. So, what is ARP? Well, it's if you have an IP address and you need to know the MAC address of a device, you're gonna leverage ARP. And so obviously it's on the same network. We're not talking about layer 3 boundaries. We're talking about on the same layer 2, and we did videos on all of that. So if I wanna find the MAC address of an IP address, let's say it's my gateway, I'm gonna leverage ARP. And so ARP is gonna say, it's going to send a broadcast out on the network with basically saying who is authoritative for this IP address. And every device on the layer 2 segment is going to see that, and based on if they are authoritative for it or not, they are going to respond. They'll respond with their MAC address. And as a host, I'm going to get that response back, and then I'm going to update something called my ARP table. And my ARP table really has an IP address associated to the layer 2 MAC address. And so then from then on out, as long as my ARP cache, they call it ARP cache, is not timed out, every time I send some traffic to that IP address, I already know the MAC address, I'm gonna send it directly to that MAC address, the burned in hardware address of that device, and traffic's gonna flow. So one thing to talk about is ARP cache. ARP cache is typically about 4 hours, and then that ARP entry is going to age out and it's going to do the process again. So why is it important? When we get into switching, it's going to be switching based on destination MAC address. So if I already know the MAC address, I'm going to be sending it directly to that MAC address. The switch is going to isolate that traffic from sender to destination port, and we're going to get a much more efficient network. Also, it just makes networking that much more efficient. Hosts don't have to process every packet. And so that was the mechanism they used to directly send to elements on the network, is that burned in MAC address. So every host doesn't have to process it. So when you see a lot of ARP messages on the network, every host has to process it and say, is this for me? Yes or no. All right, so what else is out there related to ARP? There's also something called proxy ARP, which is really important if you're leveraging a firewall, and we're leveraging NAT, like network address translation, and we did a video on that. So if I'm a firewall and I'm hosting this network address translation or IP address for another device, I'm gonna proxy ARP for that. What does that mean? Well, I'm gonna answer as if that is my IP address, even though the firewall is passing it to another device. So it's gonna see an ARP request for the IP address of the NAT. I'm gonna respond to it with the firewall's MAC address. It's gonna receive that traffic, and then it's gonna translate it to the internal host. That covers proxy ARP. We talked a little bit about ARP tables. We talked about ARP cache. We talked about why it's important. If there's anything in this video that you said, hey, it'd be great if you gave us more info on that, make sure you leave a comment, like, subscribe. We will see you on the next Back to the Basics. Thanks for watching.